Hold on to your butts.
Here we go!
Men? Are you not entertained? With the box, who's in the box? You can't handle the truth! To the king! To the king! Skadoosh. Lie down! Lie! Lie for ruin and the world's ending!
I am a massive nerd. I've watched films and TV shows about pretty much anything. Romance, comedy, horror, action, thriller, true stories, anything. There's something about the form of movie making which sparked a love within me. A love and passion which I've never been able to apply to anything else in my life. One of my favourite things to do is going to the movie theatre. I used to have a movie poster consisting of the most influential movies from the past 30 years. Since my girlfriend and I have been dating, we've watched over 80 films which I've said she needs to see. Cinema is my brain. This insanely beautiful form of storytelling has a hold on me more controlling and dictative than Viper. However, it's this exact love, this extreme passion is the exact reason why I spend so much of my time thinking about how much cinema lets me down. For every excellent shot, a poorly written joke ruins the atmosphere. For every tense moment in the presence of a demon, a generic jump scare. And for every godly protagonist, an irritating child sidekick. Cinema has both the power to make me feel like I am in the presence of motion picture gods, and also that Hollywood seriously doesn't know what they're doing. How can they be this talented while also being so wrong? This question is what I find myself asking when trying to understand what feels like everything I am watching today. Why did you have to make this scene comedic? Why did you stop incorporating dark undertones and messages? Why is this music so forgettable? Why is this movie not being credited? Why is this movie being credited? The movie industry to me manages to be the most polarizing medium of storytelling in history, providing me with new negative or neutral questions every day about the stories which I adore. If you've clicked on this video, maybe you feel similar. Maybe you're disappointed with a franchise that you've loved for so many years. Maybe a movie adaptation you were waiting for missed its chance to be appreciated. Or maybe you don't even know why you feel this way. Maybe you're just feeling let down by cinema. No! And if you are, know that I feel the same. So after this genuinely heartfelt introduction, let's get into the juicy details about which tropes within cinema result in me giving my girlfriend a TED talk at night. Trope number 1, stories being unnecessarily comedic. Okay, starting with something which I know isn't something that just bothers me. Movies and TV shows being unnecessarily comedic, and I say it like that because I don't want to give them the satisfaction of calling them comedies. You know who you are. I just want to clarify, I'm not the sort of person who believes that a movie in one genre can't contain elements from others. That's all well and dandy. I'll be the first person to say that Thor being the unintentionally funny member of the Avengers is actually quite a clever move. His take back with Banner makes me laugh to this day.
Thor report on the Hulk?
The gates of hell are filled with the screams of his victims. But not the screams of the dead, of course. No. Wounded screams, mainly whimpering, a great deal of complaining, and tales of sprained deltoids and gout.
However, having a character do something comedic in the moment is a very different decision than making a character an attempted comedic character. Thor here was great. He was still this noble and striking man. He just broke character for a second. That's exactly why it worked so well. It's why he was able to get zero hate for that and receive lots of criticism for, well, this entire movie. The problem when it comes to stories within one genre is that they have to be consistent. Not necessarily identical, but consistent. If you're able to watch one film and then go to another, the themes and atmosphere should stay similar enough for us to be able to think, oh, yeah, okay, I see how we got here. Neat. When we're instead thinking, what? Why is there a cartoon dumpling in Olympus? Hollywood should have realised, maybe we've gone too far. What were our foundations again? This is one of the reasons why Master Oogway worked so well. Just like Thor, whenever he made us laugh, it was because he broke character. DreamWorks didn't decide to dress him in pink and make him silly all the time. They waited until he seemed so mystical and zen, and then decided to make him break. Oogway's funniest moments were crafted with extreme precision and executed with excellent handling. It's clever. That's exactly why it works. This isn't clever. It's cheap. It's basically saying, yeah, we had no idea on how to fill this time in the story, so have this cheap laugh scene. Unfortunately, Marvel is the most notable of this. I don't remember the last time I saw a Marvel project which didn't have me thinking it was made for a very immature target audience. Do you remember when they gave us The Winter Soldier? That shit was insane. A dark spy espionage sort of movie where everything we knew collapsed and was a lie? It was amazing. In comparison, who else remembers the seriously gritty She-Hulk show? Oh, no one, because it was too silly. This is probably one of my most hated decisions within media. Not everything needs to be funny and made for babies, Hollywood. Do better. Moving on. Trope number 2, stereotypical characters. This one will be a shorter rant. Just because I've not got a lot to say on the matter, it's just a simple issue. Storytelling isn't the easiest thing to pull off. I know. I'm not suggesting here that Hollywood needs to have 16 completely original character stereotypes in every single movie. What I am suggesting, though, is that Hollywood is capable of spending a little bit more time on making those stereotypical characters a little bit more unique. You know, maybe give something which is commonly associated with them a different angle, or maybe change it completely. You won't lose the character and the personality by adjusting one or two generic stereotypical actions. It just adds that little extra to the character, which in turn will mean that more people have a chance to enjoy whatever piece of media you were creating. Here's an example with two characters from one of my favourite shows, The Walking Dead. Negan is a character with so many layers. He's a bad guy, sure, but to just sum him up as the enemy isn't really an accurate or fair take. He was a man who was moulded by an apocalypse and completely lost his way. The trauma of losing his wife being one of the largest factors. He absolutely did some outrageous things, but as the audience, we see that he is conflicted with who he was and who he wants to become. Now let's look at another villain in The Walking Dead, Dawn. She wants to remain in control and let her officers do whatever the hell they please. She is the bad guy. She doesn't have mixed thoughts or actions. She claims she does, but we never see any of them. I'm not saying I know exactly how to fix her, but I'm sure someone will be able to think of at least one way. But to sum it up, making characters more multidimensional and to start following every single stereotype to a T would be a fantastic move. Trope number 3, characters acting differently for drama. Now this shit is personal. Something which really gets under my skin when watching a movie or show about a character, which I have previously learned a lot about, is when they suddenly do something which completely contradicts either their actions, morals, or history. I just discussed it in my previous video, but Eric from Sex Education is a fantastic example of this. The guy's whole story during the first season is coming to terms with loving himself and to not repress who he is, but rather to embrace it, even if that means having to tackle it with his parents. Later in the show, however, in a few seasons after that, when he gets with another character, he ridicules them about not coming out to his parents and proceeds to give him a hard time about it, saying that he's not who he should be. This just doesn't make sense to me. Why do directors, showrunners, writers, whatever, think doing something like this would be a good idea? Creating conflicting thoughts or actions can be interesting, but when you've got characters being hypocritical and ironically, you're creating rifts within audiences. This is a fact. It doesn't make them more interesting, it just makes them odd. More often than that, it also makes audiences change their opinions on the characters, and sometimes for worse. Having characters remain consistent is very important. It doesn't mean they can't change. The characters can still have arcs and go through change which can alter their thoughts or morals, but when they begin acting in a way which is inconsistent with the previous writing, you lose me. Eric suffered greatly from this, as well as many other characters. Trope number 4. Changing directors, showrunners, and writers. So this one is a little bit more difficult to decide where I sit, purely because I see both sides. I've seen some projects where different directors or showrunners have taken over a production due to conflicting ideas, creative differences, or scheduling conflicts, and it's been for the better. But then I've also seen productions which end up like The Last Jedi. The main problem I have with people taking over a project which was initially started by someone else is that the main vision of that project is now completely altered. It's the equivalent of finishing an essay that someone else started writing. You may make a solid essay from what you were given before, but it won't feel coherent throughout, or maybe it contradicts an essay that was written before. If we look at the new Star Wars movies, we can see that in its finest form. J.J. Abrams seemingly had a solid idea for where he wanted to take these movies, then came Rian Johnson's take. Now, did I think this film was as appalling as everybody said it was? No, I didn't. But do I also think it was a good movie? No, absolutely not. The main reason for me is because it just didn't feel like a natural continuation of the story which was made before. After Abrams left the scene, Rian Johnson was left to create his vision, which greatly differed to JJ's. This meant that characters were interpreted differently, journeys and arcs were changed to fit someone else's vision, and the overall direction of the future of the franchise is now being led in a direction completely different than what was previously established by the original creator. A different example of this, though, could be something like The Walking Dead in Season 9. I think I'll be using this series as an example quite a bit. It's because I've not long finished rewatching it with my girlfriend, and I love it. In Season 2, the original showrunner left after some disputes with AMC, and this is who replaced him. This showrunner made both some good and some bad moves. The good moves could sometimes be great, but then his bad moves, well, they were enough to get the fandom begging for his removal from the show. So in Season 9, after the most boring season of the show, that's exactly what happened. Scott Gimble was replaced with Angela Kang, a longtime writer for the show, and the show started getting good again. In this instance, changing the showrunner improved the project, but the original change back in Season 2 could be seen as the bad move to begin with. I'm sure there's a really good reason why studio executives do this. Maybe it could be as simple as a scheduling conflict, or it could be something more complicated like issues between executives and creators. But if it was up to me, I would not want to continue making a movie or show unless the original creator had some form of input. In my opinion, you're risking your money more by gambling that someone else is capable of continuing the same original vision than by hoping that someone else could do it better. Trope 5. Remaking movies and shows. Oh boy. Okay, I may upset some people here, but frankly, I don't give a Hollywood. I am writing this in early 2024. Here is a list of some of the remakes, sequels, or reboots you have either done recently or are planning on releasing at some point in the future. Are you ready? The Grinch, The Incredibles, Jurassic World, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Mowgli, Ocean's 8, Transformers, Predator, Tomb Raider, Mean Girls, The Exorcist, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, Aladdin, The Jungle Book, Cinderella, Dumbo, The Lion King, Mulan, Alice in Wonderland, Lady and the Tramp, Beauty and the Beast, Pinocchio, Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, Snow White, Wonka. And this is just from 5 minutes of research. If I wanted to do some incredibly thorough research over the span of a few days, I'm sure I could find a ridiculous amount of movies either being adaptations, soft reboots, spin-offs, or straight up effortless remakes. Some of you may be watching this and might be confused why this bothers me so much. Here's why. Here are some of my personal favourite movies from 2023. Oppenheimer, Barbie, The Covenant, Anyone But You, Leave the World Behind, and Across the Spider-Verse. Did you notice anything? Besides Across the Spider-Verse, all of these films are original concepts, which have had incredible receptions. These movies prove that Hollywood currently consists of some of the most incredible artistic minds of our time, So why are so many big funded and mainstream projects being cash grabs? We're settling for mediocrity when we know that we could have some really well made stories. That's why this bothers me so much. Some of these remakes aren't even justified. Moana is getting a live action remake. The movie came out in 2016, and its remake is rumoured to release in 2025, and the sequel is coming out at the same time. What is happening? Trope 6, children being forced into productions. Oh, please man, stop. I can't stand having to see children forced into media as if it somehow makes the story more interesting. Spoiler alert, Hollywood, it doesn't. The time where I think it worked best was in The Walking Dead, because it wasn't random. It made sense. Some kids would survive and be shaped by the world. Characters like Carl and Judith. Ironically, The Walking Dead also has my least favourite child actor in cinema. Let me introduce you to Laurent. This kid right here, he makes me wish that Negan didn't have a rule about not killing children. The way he talks bothers me so much. His idea that he can't kill because God won't forgive him, and worst of all, oh, by the way, spoilers for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. The fact that at the end of the show, we are left believing that Daryl stays in France, abandoning Judith, RJ, his family, Michonne, oh, and Rick, to look after this kid, creates frustration within me I didn't even know I could feel. Not only does incorporating children change characters, it also takes away the spotlight because we are then forced to watch them in scenes, hoping that we'll like them. Let me tell you something. I dislike Laurent so much, I ended up disliking The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. The whole show becomes all about him, and not Daryl. Daryl Dixon becomes a secondary character in his own show. Now, I understand that this is subjective and people will feel differently, which is fair, but you clicked on my video, you wanted to hear what I said, so this is what I'm saying. If someone in the comments can explain why this is a good idea, I'd love for you to try, and hopefully I might even understand it. I don't like kids in movies and shows, at least mostly. Fuck off.
Trope 7. Executives interfering. Slightly more ambiguous, as there are multiple ways in which executives interfere with productions, but I'm going to discuss the ways which I think are most harmful. Firstly, executives sacrificing the story for the sake of messages is terrible. Not every film made is going to be appreciated by everyone. That's a fact. That's why words like demographic are used when pitching films. Not every film should have to include certain messages, every type of person within society, every type of political agenda or ideology. Movies should be able to tell whatever story they want to, without having executive decisions change them. If a movie chooses to just be a story for people to enjoy, then it should have the choice to not include messages about political or societal issues. This is how you change your audience's perception from appreciating and enjoying the movie to deciding whether or not they thought what was just shown was politically correct or fair. Audiences shouldn't have to argue with one another about which side is being displayed. Instead, we should be focusing on the beauty of movies, who we enjoyed watching, how excellent the music was, or how talented the director is. And secondly, executives enforcing script rewrites or reshoots because they don't like it personally.
I think I'm pretty safe in saying that the general public trust directors more than some old pasty white dudes in a room full of more old pasty white dudes on how a movie should be made. And I think the best example of this would be the Justice League. The final version of the movie can't really be deemed as a complete success. Snyder's was way more liked. And this movie was discredited by the studio's executives as the bad version. So yeah, it proves that executives don't know more than directors. Just leave them be. They're better than you. Stop interfering. And trope number 8, making kids' movies too silly. So the last thing on my list to discuss, and weirdly, this is the one that I feel most passionate about. So for a bit of context here, I graduated university with a first class honours in media and communications. I've spent the last 5 years of my life studying subjects based around film, and I wrote my dissertation on the importance of animated films, so I'm basically an expert in my field. Animated films are the building blocks for who many of us go on to be. The messages encoded within them are what stick with us. They go on to shape what morals we have, whether we know it at the time or not. Seeing the hero prevail, seeing them choose to show compassion to a villain, choosing to do the right thing when it's the hardest option, learning the balance between right and wrong. Animated movies are special when it comes to making an impact on us. And what bothers me most about these movies is that they are disrespected by so many. They're kids' films. They're not made for adults. Why do you care? It's just a kids' film. Man, these takes are ridiculous. The thing is though, my main problem actually isn't with people's opinions on the genre. It bothers me, but it's not my main problem. My main problem is what Hollywood is now doing. They're proving the people right. Kids' movies should be challenging us. They should be making kids think. When we're dumbing them down so kids can understand, we're limiting what they are capable of interpreting. That's no way to go. The example I want to use for this is the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. The first two movies are some of my favourites of all time. They have got so many messages, all while being some of the most visually pleasing animated movies I've ever had the pleasure of viewing. However, I do not feel this strongly about Kung Fu Panda 3. My problem with this movie is that it greatly differed to the original two. The story changed from challenging the hero spiritually and mentally. It stopped discussing problems like being accepted and starting to love who you are. It stopped making people grow because of their issues and getting past them. And something which I think is overshadowed quite greatly, Po didn't even try to save the villain in this film. He tried to explain everything to Tai Lung. He tried to get Shen to rethink his actions, trying to change who he is now, possibly setting him on a redemption arc. He had one look at Kai, and he was like, yeah, no. Speaking of, gone are the deeply complex and conflicted villains. The new villain just wanted power, because he wanted power. Because power is good, and power makes him strong, and strength is power. Do you get what I'm saying here? They dumbed the villain down. They included less serious messages. They made two movies which proved that children are capable of understanding deep, complex, and challenging ideologies and messages, and then proceeded to make a film full of silly fat jokes and changed everything to be more childlike. It's disappointing to think executives think that children aren't smart enough for these deeper movies. Now, I'm not trying to boast, but this is what I was watching when I was a kid. Oh, sorry, I showed the wrong thing. This is what I was watching when I was a kid. Movies like this were my favourite. Great storytelling, great action fight sequences, interesting plot lines, and gorgeous set designs. If I was watching this as a kid, then others certainly were as well. Children aren't stupid. They are more than capable of understanding complex stories. So why are they suddenly being made this way? Unfortunately, it's because of reasons like this. Statements like this really, really bother me. We're now living in an age where things like TikTok are making our attention span shorter. It's no secret. And it's something which many older generations are now ridiculing younger generations for, which is ironic because it's their fault. Knowing this is happening, it makes me wonder why we're feeding it. Shouldn't we be saying, no, let's challenge them. Let's help fight this. Isn't that a better outcome? Oh, of course not. Silly me. That means more effort and money has to go into it. Stupid man. I'll go sit in the corner and watch my silly little films made for kids. So, there we have it. My problems with cinema and the people who run it. Let me know what you thought about it. Leave a comment if you found something which you agreed with, or if there was something you disagreed with. Oh, actually, no, scrap that. Even better. Let me know what your problems are with cinema. I'd love to hear what other people's problems are, and also why you feel this way. Thank you guys for all the support so far. The response to the last video has absolutely blown my mind. You guys are awesome. Never did I think my first attempt would be given a chance by so many. Anyway, have a good day, dudes. See you soon.